Okay, some description on how absolute values work. Okay, so absolute values have a fact that if I have alpha like this and x multiplied inside an absolute value, it's the same as the absolute value of alpha, absolute value of x. This is for any real number alpha. Okay, so if I have 2x, in other words, I can just say it's absolute value 2, which is 2 times x. This is the same. If I have negative 2x, it's the absolute value of negative 2 times absolute value of x. I just applied that directly. Absolute value of negative 2 is 2, so it's also just 2x. Okay, so what I can do is then I can say, instead of going this way, taking it out, if I have a positive value in front here, I can put it back in and get something that makes sense. Because if I take out the 2 from both of these, if I factorize it out and put it in front, I just have to write absolute value 2, and it would be this. Okay, what you can't do is if you have a negative, try and put that entire negative number back in. So if I tried to put it back in like I did over here, it's definitely not equal, because if I take it out, I would get that answer, not this one. If I decide, okay, no, I'm clever, I'm just going to put in the negative 2 and multiply it with both and say it's negative 2x minus 4 like this, still not true. If I look at negative 2x minus 4, and I decide I'm going to take out that negative 2, so if I factorize it out, the rule says it's an absolute value of that negative 2 in front, and then whatever I factorize it out by. So I just applied this again. Absolute value of negative 2 is 2. So now I get 2x plus 2. I get that answer again. So this entire thing is still just equal to the thing above it. They're equal, actually. So you can't take in a negative number like this. It wouldn't make sense, because this is a negative times a positive, which gives a negative. If I take in the negative number, it's an absolute value. This will always be positive. A negative can't be equal to a positive. So what I can do, in fact, is if I have a positive number, I can just take it in and say it's 3x plus 6. If I have a negative number, I can leave the negative and take the positive version of that. So I can say it's like negative absolute value 3 times x plus 2. And now it looks very similar to my rule over there. And I know I just leave this negative in front and look at this. And I can say it's 3x plus 6. So it's the negative version of this. Okay, a negative equal to a negative. Okay, so you can only take in positive things like this. If you have a negative number, you can leave the minus out there. Just take in the positive number because it works like this. Okay, now, when I say those two are equal, let's quickly prove that those two are equal, even in general. So this is a small lesson on proofs as well. Okay, so we can say, what if we have ax plus b? Okay, and we want to say, okay, is it equal? We want to prove that it is, in fact, equal to negative ax minus b. How would I prove that? Okay, so I am going to say RTP. This is what I'm required to prove. So I'm not allowed to start from the fact that I'm working towards. I'm not allowed to use that at all. What I can do is I can start from either the left or the right-hand side. I'm going to start from the left-hand side and prove that it's equal to the right-hand side. So I'm going to start from this. Let's prove that it's equal to that. Okay, so how I'm going to do this is I'm going to find a creative way of just applying that. Okay, so if I go and look, I can factorize out something in here, a negative 1. Okay, so then I have ax plus b. Cool. This looks very similar to this. Well, I have a rule if I have something multiplied, that if I have alpha times x, come on, focus, alpha times x, then I can just say it's absolute value x. Okay, so in this case, my x is just ax plus b, my alpha is just minus 1, so it's the absolute value of whatever I factorized out, the absolute value of my other thing, absolute value 1, negative 1 is 1. So I'm left with this. And guess what? I just proved that this is equal to that, which is exactly what I wanted. So if you're asked to do a proof, this is what it means to prove something. And now you know that negative ax minus b is always going to be equal to ax plus b. So these two are always equal. Okay, cool. So that's a general proof. Okay, but this is how an absolute value works. We'll see it in the last example of something I'll draw, which is the most elaborate one. I'll do it in both ways once again, like I promised in the previous video.